Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michelle Perry, your Master of Ceremony for today's event. Today, the men and women of the 4th Test Wing pay special tribute to Mr. Roger Otis for 33 years of distinguished federal civil service. The presiding official for today's ceremony is Colonel Niles Kokenauer, retired United States Air Force. As a reminder, during the national anthem, military members in uniform should stand at attention. Military members in civilian clothes and civilians should place their right hand over their hearts. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Ms. Heather Leopold and the invocation by Mr. Rick Hoffman.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you have given us as we celebrate Roger Otis's many years of faithful and honorable service to our great nation. Thank you for guiding and helping him, providing an everlasting impact to many people around him as he led, mentored, and trained others. I pray that all of us gathered here today will be inspired by his career. You will bless us all today with your presence as we celebrate Roger's retirement. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Heather, for that beautiful rendition, and to Mr. Hoffman. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Please join me in extending a very special welcome to Roger's family and friends joining us today. Please hold your applause until all have been introduced. His wife, Jessica, their daughter, Ashley, and her husband, David, their daughter, Deanna, their son, Justin, and his brother and sister and their families who are watching us this live. Special guest, Cliff Tompkins.
All good. All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and it's great to see, it reminds me of taking an SAT as a kid. I mean, spread out, you can open your blue books now for those that remember those days. It's kind of what it reminds me of. But it is the times we live in, and it is the situation we're at. I'm grateful that so many people could actually come to this, and I'm also grateful that so many are actually online and able to watch that way, to include, a number of your family members, Roger. I do want to also recognize, I believe Mr. Randy Walden is going to be watching this virtually as well. And Roger, he actually asked me to read this. He sent me this along. Don't worry, it's all good. Roger, thanks for all your leadership and expertise over the past 3 decades. Your contributions to the RCO, the Department of the Air Force, and the DoD have been superb. This nation is safer today because of your selfless efforts. You will be missed and should be proud of your accomplishments. All the best in retirement and in the next chapter in life. Cheers, Waldo. So, Mr. Walden is a senior SES. He's a level 3. So when the nation has a really difficult problem and asks the Department of Defense for help, and that falls to the Department of the Air Force, they quite often will go to the RCO. So why would the director of the RCO, take time out of his extremely busy day to be a part of this and to send those notes? Because the impact that Roger has had over the last 3 decades is really, amazing and phenomenal. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because, Jessica, especially for you, and I'm sure for Ashley and Deanna and Justin, your dad probably didn't come home and do a lot of bragging about everything he did at work, and probably for the last 10 years hasn't said much of anything, for good reason. So I'll try to give you some sense of the impact that he's had and how that has affected the nation. But I'll begin also by saying thank you. Jessica, I know that when you signed on to this ride about 33 years ago, that you didn't know quite what you were getting into. You met this guy, you were out in a much greener part of California, and Edwards, we'll do it for a few years and then we'll go do something else. 33 years later, here you are. And there's been a lot of days where he's been gone, nights that he's been working, times where he wasn't able to be there. Usually that is when the crisis occurs, and your resilience and your efforts through all that and your sacrifice are very much appreciated. And for all the kids as well, I know that there were times where your dad wasn't there. He couldn't be at every single event you'd like him to be. He wasn't able to always attend those things or be at home in an evening to be able to answer the question that you may have. But I'm going to try to give you a sense of the impact and the importance of the work that he was doing. You don't get to be somebody like Roger just haphazardly. There's a certain amount of upbringing, and there's things that shaped him from his early days. And especially for some of the folks he worked with, you may learn a few things in this part of the discussion, because there was some stuff I didn't know. For example, Roger's from Maine. He hides that accent remarkably well. He's been working for years to tamp down that Maine, and so the family was rapidly moving around. I think Roger hit 3 countries and multiple states within his first 10 years of life. Because he went Brunswick to Rota, Spain, to Pensacola, and then finally retired up at in the upper San Francisco Bay Area, down by Monterey. Thank you. Of course, his father, being military, got the itch at about the 3-year point, saying, I haven't got orders. What am I going to do? And so the family packed up and moves off to Vienna, Austria, where he was teaching for several years, and Roger got to finish his elementary education in Europe. Not a bad deal. Comes back, settles into the California lifestyle quite well. Through his high school years, described it as majoring in tennis, automobiles, and minoring in golf. Not a bad way to do your teenage years. There was a little bit of academics in there, but that was, kind of way down on the priority list for him. If he could work on his car, go play a tennis game, or hit the links, yeah, that's where you'd find Roger. But, at 18, some things happen that, you kind of smack you upside the face. And in this particular one, it was, yep, you're graduated now. We'll either continue to support you through college, or you can move out of the house and start fixing cars, on a more regular basis. And that common sense that was a hallmark of Roger Otis, really started to show up there, because he's like, I think I'm not quite ready to jump into this game. Maybe that college gig is a good idea. So he goes off, and graduates with a degree in mechanical engineering. Roger never does anything halfway. He could have done any number of different degrees, but mechanical engineering was the one he chose. And, at the same time, probably one of the wisest decisions, again, this whole good common sense that he shows, was he met this wonderful girl at that time named Jessica. And they started dating and, graduated and got married at about within a few months of each other. Well, Roger's doing the job interview scene now, coming out of college, and, is looking at some of the different places, goes to the rocket labs, has an interview up there, and drives up to the, up on the escarpment, and is looking around, and he's like, whoa, this is remote. And he's like, where do you guys live? And they're like, oh, Boron, North Edwards. Okay. So he does a little drive-through, and in the back of his mind, he's like, I don't think Jessica's going to like this. Oh, Jessica is not going to like this. No, no, no. So he comes down, interviews here at Edwards, and, fortunately for the Flight Test Center, it stuck. He may have tried to convince, Jessica, it's only for a few years. You can do Lancaster for a few years. Well, they moved on up to Tehachapi, and, I think the rest is history. So Roger's first job in the Air Force was actually working in, the flight, is when an aircraft lands. And for a lot of the folks that are, work here at the Flight Test Center, bear with me, but I want to be able to talk to folks that may not always be part of the Air Force. So when an aircraft lands, one of the important things it's supposed to do is stop, preferably on the runway. We have these great lake beds out here when it doesn't happen that way, but that is the preferred way to stop an aircraft. And there's a lot of testing to go in to make sure that it does it correctly and the way it's supposed to. Dry runway, wet runway. That was part of Roger's first duties there. That and the life support equipment. Now, it doesn't sound real glamorous, and we're going to talk about some more glamorous things that he did. But I'll tell you what, that equipment, when you need it, you really need it to work. And so it was Roger's job to make sure that it would, and test it and make sure that it does. I think it's a great picture of you back there, testing out some of that equipment out that you used. And I can tell you, there's a lot of air crew that really don't want to have to use that have had to, that can thank folks like Roger for the work they did there. Because, you're in a bad situation, you really need the equipment to work the way it's supposed to. And that's what testing is all about, to ensure that the systems will do what they're supposed to do. Well, fast forward a few years, and Roger is now being given an opportunity, and the year is 1991. Now, if you remember what's happening for those that are a little bit younger, what you may have studied, Desert Storm, the first, was going on, and the war with Iraq was taking place. And if you remember, we introduced at that time the F-117 to the nation. It was the newest airplane. It had been in the black all that time, and we used it to demonstrate what low observable technology could do for our nation. And when it came back, there was a whole series of testing that needed to happen associated with that. That aircraft was, very carefully kept for years, and now it was going to potentially be put into other environments. And so there's two ways to do that and two ways to test that. You can either take an aircraft to places like Cold Lake, Canada in February, or Yuma, Arizona in August, or you can go to Florida and go to this one hangar that can go from -40 to 140 in 24 hours. It's pretty amazing, in the Air Force, that works on these type of programs that introduces and works in the shadows. They don't talk a lot about what they do, and they really can't say too much, but the nation really relies on the capabilities that they provide, like the F-117. Well, when you're working at a place like Edwards, you always want to be working on the next cool airplane. And the next cool airplane coming out at that time was the C-17. And so when Roger... There is an aircraft that really allows the United States to extend its influence around the world. It's an aircraft that is like the C-17. Because with that aircraft, you can bring the Army or the Marines anywhere on the planet in 24 hours and supply them, continuously throughout that operation. While, the F-22 looks really cool flying overhead, knowing that an airborne brigade can show up in your backyard and stay there at any point in time of our choosing is one major deterrent, and a much bigger deterrent for the work that we do. And that was the impact Roger's having, because he was responsible for the airdrop testing of that platform. And that is how you are going to deliver several times, and I think, Jessica, you got to experience some of the many days without seeing of personality to drive this program through to completion, counting on him to be able to do that. And it was a very grueling several years that you spent there at that CTF. Well, the Air Force, recognized the great work Roger did there and was able to select him very competitively. He was only one of 3 civilians selected to go to the Navy Postgraduate School. And he went up to Monterey, and they got to spend some time, close to your parents. You got to know your grandparents a little bit better. And Roger went on to get his master's degree in mechanical engineering, through the Navy Postgraduate School. What a great opportunity to go do that. And, while I won't say it was easy time, it probably was a welcome break from what you'd been doing up to that point. And the family probably appreciated it too, because, while he may have done some late nights, he probably wasn't sleeping under the desk anymore. So, that was, definitely part of it. So you fast forward for a couple more years, Roger graduates, and he's emphasized, in his course of study, the work of how do low observable and other, techniques like electronic warfare help aircraft to survive. And how do we get them into difficult situations and bring them back again successfully? And that was his area of study. And so when he comes back to Edwards Air Force Base, the Flight Test Center commander said, hey, I need you in the plans and programs area because, I've got engineers that can go out and do testing, but I need somebody that can represent the Flight Test Center's interests with all of the different community, Army, Marines, Navy. And as we work through aircraft survivability problems and try to bring those technologies in, I need you to do your best to deconflict what they're doing, help identify areas where we can leverage what they've done to save ourselves money, and be able to bring this capability out that much sooner. And he did that for several years. That was, I think, your first real introduction to the plans and programs area and the work that they did. Roger finishes, that with a recognition by, a number of leaders, one of whom I think will have a presentation for you later on today, by General Bunch as the wing commander here, at that time Colonel Bunch, that said, Roger, I'd like you to be my chief for all special access programs. So I remember I said that, you're in these communities that, they typically know who you are, and you get into more senior and more influential positions because they know you and trust you. And so that's the kind of reason why folks like Mr. Walden are dialing in today, because they know you and trust you. And that trust allowed Roger to move into a position where he's overseeing all of the special access activities on the base. And whether it's a phone call from Colonel Bunch at the time saying, hey, Roger, you did some testing early on stopping things and how aircraft are supposed to stop. I've got this X-37 that's sitting out in the lake bed. Is it supposed to be out there? No, it's not, sir. Be right there. So, driving through snowstorms or dealing with the challenges, it'll be daytime, nighttime. You work the hours when they have to happen. And in those kind of positions, it's really odd and bizarre time. Where we're going. Laz, I think we got a seat for you right up here. Come on up, brother.
Come on down. Don't be shy.
So Roger does that job for several years, and then, they recognize, hey, we want you to take some of that leadership that you've shown, and, we'd really like to have you go over to the Global Vigilance CTF and work and head up their plans. Now, for the family, again, I want to put this in context of time. So the staff was responsible when a request would come, in this case, usually straight from the COCOM. They would call up and say, we need this and we need this now. People are dying. Can you do something about it? And it would be the job of the CTF to go figure out how do I test that as rapidly as I can and get that out so that the folks that are in the community can use that to solve the problems they have and protect lives. And that was the work you were doing. You were helping to guide the plans on that, and that's what he was involved in for several years, directly contributing to the folks that were in harm's way and helping to save their lives. Well, that level of impact, and again, you look in the community and there's folks that you know and there's folks that you trust. And at that time, I think Colonel Bailey and Mr. Walden called you up and said, hey, we need some help out at the Edwards Air Force Base area, specifically down in Palmdale at Plant 42. Roger, we'd like you to be our liaison for the RCO out there and work, supporting our programs. Now, the work and the programs that Roger was involved in, I'm not going to say too much. That's a really fast way to end up in an orange jumpsuit, and I'm not talking about NASA testers in this case. So rather than say the work that he did and end up, in a really difficult spot for myself, I'm going to talk about the impact he had. So again, let's put this in the context of time frame. This is 2012 to 2018, 6 years. During this time frame, I can say that Roger helped to and was directly involved in fielding a number of weapon systems. I won't say what they are, but what I will say is that the results of those systems being used were briefed to the Chief of Staff, the Secretary of the Air Force, the Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, and the President himself. Throughout all that time, the results of Roger's work were sometimes directly being shown in the White House Situation Rooms because of the impact he was having. If you remember, there was a period of time around 2016, 2017, things were getting pretty tense on the Korean Peninsula. The Koreans had demonstrated the ability to, had fired off and we had confirmed that they had fired a nuclear weapon. They had done some very long-range missile testing that could actually now reach, parts of the United States. And we were really worried. And it was Roger's job to be able to provide some options to the Secretary of Defense and the President that they could count on, and they could try to keep a very low profile and take care of things. And, quite often a lot goes on sort of just in the background that has a huge impact on our nation. And that was the impact Roger was having in that job. That those folks were counting on the work he was doing, the deliveries he was making, the systems that he was putting into the field, and in some then to be handling all of the plans and programs for the entire Flight Test Center. I mean, I am sure that you are going to be sorry to see him go, because over 3 decades of this kind of experience, that's hard to replicate. Somebody that is as even-keeled and has the common sense that Roger brings to bear on all of these problems, they don't come very often. So, Roger, you've had one heck of a great career. You have made an impact on the Air Force, the Flight Test Center, the people of that, and our nation itself. And on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you. Jessica, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you. I really appreciate, and on behalf of all of the Air Force, we want to tell you and the family how much we appreciate the sacrifices you also made, allowing your father to be able to have the impact that he did. So. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Kokenauer will now present the Outstanding Civilian Contribution Service Award to Roger Otis. Please stand for the award presentation. Department of the Air Force presents the award for Outstanding Civilian Contribution Service Award to Mr. Roger H. Otis in recognition of his distinguished performance in support of the United States Air Force from 27 June 1987 to 31 July 2020. Most notably as Director of 412 Test Wing Plans and Programs, 412 Test Wing, Air Force Test Center, Air Force Materiel Command, Edwards Air Force Base, California. Mr. Otis transformed the Special Projects Office, enabling robust test planning and execution support for classified programs. As Director of the Air Force Rapid Capability Office, West Site, Mr. Otis was the master integrator with Department of Defense, other federal agencies, and defense industry partners program requirements. His professional aptitude, leadership, personal involvement, and dedication will be long remembered. The distinctive accomplishments of Mr. Otis culminate in a distinguished career with the United States government and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Signed, Eileen A. Bjorkman, SCS, Department of the Air Force Test Center, Executive Director, dated 31 July 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated for the remaining presentations.
have you. Yeah. All right. It's like there's reluctance. Nobody wants to pull out an electronic device.
Do you want pictures, Roger?
I do want pictures. There we go. Thank you. All right. Sorry. I got Mike. Thank you, Tricia.
Please feel free to take pictures. We'll now present the Department of the Air Force's retirement certificate to Roger. It reads, from the United States Air Force, this is to recognize Mr. Roger H. Otis for 33 years of faithful and devoted federal civilian service on the occasion of retirement from employment with the United States Air Force, given this 31st day of July, 2020. Signed, Matthew W. Heiger, Brigadier General, United States Air Force Commander, 412th Test Wing. The accompanying letter is also from the 412th Test Wing Commander. It reads, Dear Mr. Otis, I am pleased and honored to congratulate you on the occasion of your retirement from the Federal Civil Service. You have made a lasting contribution to your nation's defense during the 33 years of dedicated employment. You can be extremely proud of your many valuable contributions between 1987 and 2020. Your firsthand knowledge, leadership, and diligence resulted in the fielding of combat capabilities to include first-generation stealth aircraft, advanced cargo aircraft, bombers, unmanned aerial systems, and numerous classified programs. You helped develop post-ejection aircrew life preservers and parachute release units credited with saving hundreds of lives. You led a C-17A multi-service test and evaluation airdrop team, completing initial operation test and evaluation objectives and ensuring the acquisition of 223 C-17A aircraft. You transformed the 412th Test Wing Special Projects Office from a small staff unit into a multidisciplined organization, enabling stellar support to rapidly emerging AFMC Special Access Program requirements. As Director of the Rapid Capabilities Office Western Region, you enabled execution of a $5 billion portfolio, ensuring the fielding of Secretary of Defense top priority weapons systems. In your final assignment as Director, Plans and Programs Directorate, you oversaw all 412 Test Wing resource allocations and led the approval of the first ever Flight Line Strategic Plan. You also ensured development of an aircraft capacity to which resulted in 3-star support for additional aerial refueling aircraft and B-52 test aircraft. Your performance has exceeded all expectations and set worthwhile examples for others to follow. I'm proud to have served with you. On behalf of a grateful nation and especially the men and women of the 412 Test Wing, thank you for your devoted service. Leslie joins me in wishing you and Jessica a happy and successful future. Signed, Matthew W. Heiger, Brigadier General, United States Air Force, Commander, 412 Test Wing. Roger will be receiving a President's Accomplishments. Laura and I send our best wishes for many years of happiness. May God bless you. Signed, George W. Bush. We have a letter from the Air Force Test Center Commander. It reads, Dear Mr. Otis, I am pleased and honored to congratulate you on the occasion of your retirement from Federal Civil Service. You have made a lasting contribution to your nation's defense during your over 33 years of dedicated civilian employment with the United States Air Force. You can be extremely proud of your many valuable contributions. For years, you have contributed to the Air Force mission by providing test and evaluation engineering support to numerous programs, including the F-117 and C-17. You oversaw enhancement to facilities, operations, test and production activities under the purview of the United States Air Force Rapid Capability Office and integrated processes for AFMC Special Access Program test and evaluation. You delivered major enhancements to AFTC strategic plans and capacity models. Your service to this great nation has been invaluable, and you have set an example for those with whom you have served. On behalf of a grateful America, and especially the men and women of the Air Force Test Center, thank you for your devoted support. Jennifer joins me in wishing you a happy and successful future. Sincerely, Christopher Piazzano, Major General, United States Air Force, Commander, Air Force Test Center.
I'm live streaming. I can't.
We'll now present a letter of appreciation from the Commander of the Air Force Materiel Command. It reads, Dear Mr. Otis, congratulations on your retirement from the United States Air Force. On behalf of the men and women of the Air Force Materiel Command, thank you for your 33 years of faithful and devoted service. The success you have achieved as Director of Plans and Programs and throughout your career attests to your commitment to excellence. In 2020, you enabled 3-star support of additional tanker and B-52 aircraft. as Director of the Rapid Capabilities Office Western Region, 2012 to 2019. You enabled execution of a $5 billion portfolio and ensured the fielding of SecDef top priority weapons systems and support infrastructure. Your service and contributions to our Air Force will be greatly missed. As this chapter in your life closes and a new one begins, Caroline and I wish you and Jessica good health, great happiness, and continued success. Warm regards, signed Arnold W. Bunch, Jr., General, United States Air Force, Commander, Air Force Materiel Command. Jessica, please join your husband on stage to present him with the Air Force retirement pin. This pin symbolizes Roger's retirement from civil service and the beginning of the next chapter in his life. Jessica, please place Roger's retirement pin on his lapel.
Everybody's watching.
I so need my reading glasses.
Borrow mine. Or after you stab it. Stab it.
I tried. I missed it.
Jessica, go ahead and stay on stage. That was a valiant effort.
For only one kind of event in our life.
We now take a moment to recognize Jessica for her dedication and service. Today, Jessica is being presented with a certificate of appreciation from the United States Air Force. It reads, "In grateful appreciation, the United States Air Force presents the certificate of recognition to Mrs. Jessica Otis for the commitment and numerous contributions that made positive impacts to the nation's defense. Thank you for the support which gave strength and purpose to your spouse's service. Given this 3rd day of July, 2020, signed Matthew W. Heiger, Brigadier General, United States Air Force, Commander, 412 Test Wing." Jessica is also being presented with a letter of appreciation from the 412 Test Wing Commander. It reads, "Dear Mr. Otis, your husband's retirement from federal civil service on 31 July 2020 concludes an outstanding career of 33 years. Your contributions to his success have been immeasurable, and I extend to you my heartfelt appreciation and that of the United States Air Force for your faithful and tireless efforts. The many unique and complex challenges you have faced side by side with Roger during his career should give you just cause to be proud. His contributions as Director for Plans and Programs and his dedicated efforts have been invaluable in ensuring the success of the 412 Test Wing well into the future. I assure you that the love, guidance, and assistance you provided over the years are deeply appreciated. On behalf of a grateful nation, and especially the men and women of the 412 Test Wing, thank you for your devoted support. Leslie joins me in wishing you and Roger a happy and successful future. Signed, Matthew W. Heiger, Brigadier General, United States Air Force, Commander, 412 Test Wing." Justin, you want to get in for a picture? Come on, Justin. There you go. In addition, Jessica also has an appreciation letter from the Air Force Test Center Commander. It reads, "Dear Mrs. Otis, your husband's retirement from federal civil service on 31 July 2020 concludes an outstanding career of over 33 years. Your contributions to his success have been immeasurable. I extend to you my heartfelt appreciation and that of the United States Air Force for your faithful and tireless efforts. The many unique and complex challenges you have faced side by side with Roger during his career should give you just cause to be proud. His contributions as the 412 Director of the 412 Test Wing's Plans and Programs Office were vital to the successes of the Test Center mission and projects. His dedicated efforts have been invaluable in ensuring the success of the Air Force Test Center well into the future. I assure you that the love, guidance, and assistance you provided over the years are deeply appreciated. On behalf of a grateful America, and especially the men and women of the Air Force Test Center, thank you for your devoted support. Jennifer joins me in wishing you and Roger a happy and successful future. Signed, Christopher Piazzano, Major General, United States Air Force, Commander, Air Force Test Center." Thank you, Justin, Ashley, Deanna, and Jessica. You may take your seats for now. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal portion of today's ceremony. We'll now begin with the special presentations. Let's begin.
Bring it. Bring it.
Mr. Tompkins, can you please come forward?
I know everybody else was taking their mask off with their pictures, but I bought this one especially for you. Just for you.
I got you. All covered.
On the bottom. I think most of you know on his paperwork there said that he's been to 18 stadiums. We've been doing this for 30 years now. I've been to 27, and we've done most of these together. We got a lot of them left to go. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do the one we wanted last year, which was the Super Bowl together. I got to go. He didn't. It was a good thing because usually when we go to Chiefs, Niners games, he comes out on the losing end most of the time. I mean, he's got to have a team, so he's in California, so I give him that, and I back him up, whenever. So anyhow.
Roger, we'd like to present you with your flag. This flag has quite a history. You received this flag a few years ago back in 2012. At that time, the flag flew aboard an F-22, Gray Eagle, C-17, X-47, RQ-4B, and a B-2. Over the past couple of months, your flag has flew aboard 2 F-35s, KC-46, and Iris. Additionally, it spent a week down in Palmdale. Your flag is definitely special. It has a great story, and it's safe to say this flag has seen more flying hours than most of us in this room. Okay, thanks. Mr. Wolford?
Yes, sir. Mask off. This. Well. So if you haven't figured out, Roger's a 49er fan. So I know Michelle sent out a thing yesterday, so, and I don't see a whole lot, but I don't know if anybody brought it of their team flags, right? So, don't be a hater, Roger. Don't be a hater. But what I wanted to say about Raj was, Raj came to us about a year and a half ago. If you knew our predecessor, Rich Bax, Rich was a very energetic guy. I always said he was the Energizer Bunny on crack because he was always going so fast, 110 miles an hour. Then we get Roger. Not a bad thing. It was a good thing. Okay? Roger comes on scene. And one of the things Roger did within XP was he really brought a family atmosphere back to XP. One of the things he started instilling was we started having our normal team meetings. Then he started having little functions. And before the COVID stuff happened, we were doing functions all the time. We would, I know we had picnics out here on base. I say picnics, but barbecues, rolled out the motorhome, barbecued out there. Did some games and stuff, water balloon fights and such. Do some connections with other folks. We went up to Tehachapi, flew gliders half a day, ate lunch, and then went and got to go see a private 5-GAT aircraft, a stealth drone. Saw that. And we've done just multitude of other things. Roger set us up to go to the museum and such. And there's probably some photos floating around, but Roger up there doing his risque dance thing in some of the photos and such. So bottom line, Roger really brought family back to XP. It made work fun because one, when you came in his office, he stopped what he was doing. He would listen to you, give you some advice, and send you on your way. He never micromanaged you. He let you run your program. And for that, I really, really do appreciate it. But it all kind of smoothens out and stuff. So Roger,
We did do some work.
Mr. Gaddis, would you come forward, please?
Bill, there you go. It's not going well, right? We're going downward in the trend.
Well, I figured out you're not wearing your jacket anymore. I don't have to wear mine.
Bill was always the guy I tried to lead with his dress because he's always sharp. He's always came into the office sharp.
I don't know about that, but I tell you what, they really wanted to express their appreciation to you. You always something about Roger and how he runs the office. He doesn't assume he's got all the answers. He relies on a team of experts, and I thought that was a really good strategy. I mean, because certainly he had great knowledge and was able to advocate for the test wing, but many times it takes people behind the scenes with that expertise, and certainly I speak not just for XPO but all the section leads. There was a trust there, a reliance, and you are a 49ers. Let's see what else. And there are some. There's a variety of gifts in the bag here, some cards.
Thank you.
And just thank you. And I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done?
I'm not done. But wait, there's more.
You're a 49er fan. Today I'm a 49er. I gotta trust you. How many games have we been to? It's been raining? Twice?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure I bring those. Oh, got a hold of it?
Yeah. All right. So one thing, Roger is a big 49ers fan, and there's a picture, a special picture from the overfly of the NFC Championship game. We found that from a source, and Roger, you were our biggest fan. You empowered us to greatness, and you modeled how we ought to care for each other. And that's certainly true. And we've got everyone's name down at the bottom of that, from AJ to Ted in alphabetical order. So thank you again, Roger, so much.
Mr. Perez?
You don't have anything Raider on you, do you?
No.
Good.
Thanks for representing. You know, most of the time when Roger goes in the office, he does wear a lot of black and silver, you know what I mean? But Roger, you know, I just want to let you know, I spent a couple hours in digs trying to look for San Francisco stuff. I don't know why. I found a little kid's jersey that was from, I don't know, somebody back in the 80s. I think his name was, I can't remember any of those quarterbacks back then, but and then like a sweatshirt that kind of had holes in it and stuff. It was kind of by the janitor's office.
Yeah,
and things, but
probably used.
You know, yeah. Oh, it was kind of used, yeah. I think some homeless guy was standing next to it or something. So, anyways, but I was kind of, what can I do to help out Roger? I was thinking of Chuck too. So there was a time, anybody play golf with Roger? When Roger would come out with his clubs, he had this favorite driver that he had. His favorite driver. I think it was right after they had the wooden drivers that he had this nice metal driver. And it was the size of the fairway woods now that you used to love. Now, something happened to that driver, right? It kind of, you went to go swing it. somebody.
Wait, Justin, because I think he was the one that actually had it in his hand when the head flew off.
Okay, yeah.
It served me many years.
Is that okay? So it had its purpose, and then all of a sudden you got another driver from somewhere else. A friend of yours gave you that driver.
I just kept mooching off of everybody else.
All right, so then what happened to that driver? Something happened with the car and clubs falling off of the back or something like that, and broke that one, right? And then you're looking for another driver, right? Right. So and then that same person from before got you another driver, right?
Thank you, John.
Right. So then Chuck and I were talking, and we're like, Chuck's like, Vic, I'm a little nervous, and I'm like, well, what about? And he goes, I just don't have any more drivers for Roger. Keeps gear handy and secure.
There you go.
So I figured if you put these little D-clips connected to your bag onto the basket that's on the back of the car, that'll help it prevent, it'll be a safety, right? Because we like safety, we're testers, right? It'll be a safety so that when you forget to put that strap,
Strappy thing
that's what it's for,
Yeah,
right?
that's what it's for, yeah.
To hold your clubs in? Yeah. So this is to help you out.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that Chuck doesn't have to go out and buy any more new clubs because so far TaylorMade hasn't came out with a new one for him to go buy yet. So as Chuck buys new TaylorMades, we inherit them.
They do.
Right. But not only that, Roger, you've been an awesome friend, supervisor from Roger, and it would be I'd walk in there, and if he didn't ask me to sit down, that was awesome. When he asked me to sit down, I knew something was going on. And then he'd turn his chair, and the one eyebrow would go up, and then I'm like, okay, what did I do now? So that being said, but no, I'm gonna miss you out here. I know we're gonna get together a lot more and play some good golf. You'll play good golf because you'll be able to play more than I am. But anyways, but then you can try to catch up with Chuck because that guy is just getting crazy out there. Okay, but I do want to leave you one little gift here. I hope you can use it. I remember the times.
This improves my swing, I heard.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So.
That's a lot of hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hand sanitizer.
If you start using it for hand. But
you can't wash your hands right now.
drive 3 hours to south of here to a place called Rancho Bernardo. Horrible place north end of San Diego, where we had to stay at a golf resort and all kinds of fountains and really nice fire out there.
It was a living per diem.
Right, yeah. But going out there and on the Monday, and you go there, you go to check out to see who's all there, and there's Roger sitting on the Chase Lounge with a small drink, dark colored umbrella, but reading his Air War College. And I was like, man, I should have tried that in school. And drink while I study. I drank, but I forgot to study. But anyways, thank you very much, Roger. I really appreciate everything.
You need some hand sanitizer? I have it over here.
Mrs. Weisenseal?
I don't know if I want to touch the mic after Vic did. Yes, appreciate it. So, no Bevmo.
Okay.
I wasn't thinking alcohol.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
Hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer.
Yeah, no, we've known Roger for a long time, so we first showed up, there's portions of your career, your first half of your career, you're really working for the achievement. You want the experiences, you want all of the fun stuff. And then the second half of your career is like, I really want to make the center a better place. I hope I don't screw anybody up, you know, those kinds of things. So when we first showed up, I showed up at Edwards. Apparently I missed you on the A7 program.
Yeah.
So I was actually at Wright-Patterson in control of all the money back in the day when that was going on. Had no idea. I wasn't old enough to travel to Edwards and get a rental car by myself because I was under 25, so I never came out. Helps when you start when you're 18. So then we showed up on the C-17 program, and Roger is probably got the most interesting office chair I had ever seen. It was a Martin Baker ejection seat put on 2x4s with casters. So it's an instant conversation piece. Yeah, and then Chuck and I did all of the performance and flying qualities type work that allowed you to do the airdrop. But Jessica, I wouldn't say he was working when he was doing airdrop, because that crew is just a whole nother fun crew altogether. Not that any of us, after we got drugged behind a boat at Isabella for flight status, never found a beer in our boat, whatever. So it was a good crew, and it's some of the best testing, and I appreciate Niles telling the great story, which it's nice to have Niles here. He makes great desserts with nice little snow scenes on them for Christmas. But it's good to have your friends. And then I don't know where your career goes after that. You don't tell anybody. But we start carpooling at some point when gas gets to be at $4 a gallon. There's 4 of us that start carpooling. One Wisen Seal went in the morning. One Wisen Seal came home in the afternoon just because of the way the schedule works. So Chuck was typically there in the morning because I am not a morning person. I was usually there in the afternoon. But eventually people get different jobs. And now it's just you and I. And I just really want to tell you how much I appreciated the carpool. And I know since we don't carpool anymore, we do Carpool Appreciation Day every now and then. At 5:30 in the morning, we would meet at Starbucks up in Tehachapi and have coffee. I think all of us are retired except for you. So Carpool Appreciation Day isn't allowed to happen before what, 9 maybe? So on those days, I have a gift for you. See this second. On the days you can't wait for us, I got you some Christmas in a cup.
Christmas in a cup.
That was the peppermint mocha. You can just shake that up and have that until the rest of us are out of bed, then maybe we'll go. And then I also heard that our favorite hiring troll, who's out there constantly, yeah, there you are, Mr. Wada, has hooked you up with some NASA opportunities. So the other thing that I've got for you here is... So when Roger was up in the XP and at the front office up at the test wing, he had one individual that when they came in every morning, they would say, how are you today? And he would say, best day of my life. So Roger and I would practice in the car for 2 years. I just wanted him to say one time something that was different. So we practiced for probably about 1.5 years for you to say, I'm a bubble above effervescent. And he could not get it out.
I did it at your retirement.
Yeah, you did.
A bubble above effervescence.
So, and I had given him a list of about 50 of them. I said, practice one that's shorter. You know, they're all like the normism. To tell him one. Okay. So you can be thinking of it and practicing before you come. And then the rest of the gifts in here are kind of on the golf end of the scale. Since you know, this is nice that you're retiring, but blah, blah, blah. Would you just get out the door so we can start playing golf on a regular basis? Yes. So I got you something to mark your ball so you don't, all the Callaways don't get confused when we're all playing with Callaway 3s that day.
Yeah, can you change? Come on. Like 3 years, been playing the same damn ball. Every freaking damn.
Because Chuck doesn't lose them.
Yeah, they're always in the fairway.
Yeah. And then I got you a little thing that goes on the end of your golf club because we're not getting younger. Now you don't have to bend over to get it out of the hole. It just sits on the end of the putter and picks it up for you. But most importantly, since one of the courses that we play on is out in Bakersfield and the driving range is along one whole side of the fairway, I got you orange balls so we don't have to look at all of the balls in that 200-yard portion of the fairway to see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm known for going to the right, and as soon as I hit it, these two just go, oh, Lord. There's like 200 balls out there, they're all white, and mine lands out in the middle of them. And they're like, you're on your own, bud. You want to go out and fight it? Go out there. It's a death wish, but you can go out there. At least now I got an orange one.
You got orange one, the F-35 Director of Projects, while you were XP and doing some of your stuff. The rule in the car is that you could bitch about your job until about the third Tehachapi, or the third Mojave exit. Then it couldn't be about work anymore. It had to be something else. But I tell you, getting it out of your system by Mojave, you'll never guess what they did. And then towards the end, our problems were the same. How do we move the foreign partners? Where do we push Turkish jets? Where do we do this? He's like, why does the F-35 do that? Sweet JPO works. So I just wanted to thank you for all the times you've talked me off the ledge. So in honor of the carpool stuff, and this is the kind of carpool that would say I'd have to show up in the morning for a 5:30, 6 o'clock telecon. He would come in with me in the morning and do that. But the rule was we had to stop at Carlos's and get a burrito on the way in. So you have a gift certificate to go to Carlos. Again, if we can't wait for you to, do carpool appreciation later in the morning, you can go get your burrito or whatever else it is that you need. And then there's times where the day was just so bad, you had so many problems where your soul hurts at the end. So there were a couple days where we would go, we need to go hit the brewery on the way home up in Tehachapi. Let's go do that. That's awesome. And that's the best carpooler ever. Yeah. So I am so excited to see that you retire. The one thing I would tell you is that the ceremony for me is the hardest to have gone through, because it's one thing to be a spectator, it's the other one to be the person that's up on stage hearing all this stuff about what it is that you've done and how awesome you are. So that's exciting. But what's even harder, I think, is when they give you the ID at the end, and that's the last thing you do, you drive off base, and you realize you no longer have TSA pre-check. Because it's gone.
Damn it. Wait, Daniel, I'm not leaving, Daniel. I need that.
Things they don't tell you in retirement class.
The little things that sneak up on you. What, I'm in this big, long line to get on a plane?
Yeah, and then you can't come on base except for Retiree Wednesday.
Yeah, Retiree Wednesday, you have to pay $80 to get it back.
Yeah.
True statement.
Yeah, so anyway, just a heads up if there's any other mentoring I can help you out with at that point. But I just thanks for everything. You've been awesome to work with, and I can't wait till you're home to play with and see more of everybody. And Jessica, we've been watching that Love It or List It, so I guess you're going to give him crap about what he gets to do around the house. And then we started watching my $1 million home. Yeah, I figured I have to win the lottery. I think it's my lottery home. That's what I said. My lottery dream house. Okay. So if you're looking at Monterey, lottery dream house is the way to go, man.
There you go. There you go.
So thanks for everything.
Thank you.
All right. There's a card that goes with it, too.
Let me see if I can put it off this side here.
Thank you. Mr. Silos?
All right. I've been dreading this day for a while. I know that when Roger first started talking about retirement, we were all in denial for a bit. Went through that phase and then tried to talk him out of it. Thought I had talked him out of it, but then realized I didn't. So then we started, adjusting to reality of post-Roger. I mentioned at Mark Crawford's retirement last week that I had 5 mentors in my career, and Roger, you're the top of that list. So I really appreciate you. Going back, my first job here was C-17 Performance, working with Annette, Chuck. Actually, I just missed Chuck, but he was running around. So I didn't work directly with Roger, but I remember those times very well. I just remember that the airdrop folks, the soldiers were hitting each other on the way out, so that wasn't a good time to be an airdrop guy, trying to figure that out. So I really appreciated the work that you guys did on that. I remember your chair. That's one thing that did come back. Thank you. And then hanging out at Annette's, getting to know her, and then with you living down the street, getting to know each other there too. So we went our separate directions, and then I ended up at the 117s, and Roger was running special projects, and at one point we switched from engineering to test management, and I needed a new boss, and so it was a natural fit, and so Roger and I partnered up there too. So throughout my career, you've always mentored and guided me, and I really appreciate that. Everything that I've learned, you have a natural leadership ability. That's the thing that strikes me the most, is it just comes natural, right? You weren't trying, it was genuine. Everything you did came through, and that's what I took away from that. Niles, the whole special projects world, it's all about relationships, right? So I remember, that's really the other thing you taught me was it's not just picking up the phone, it's going TDY and introducing people and shaking hands and really building that relationship so that you can work with somebody. And I've carried that with me too. The X-37 story, I don't know if he told you the rest of it, but Mike Trine was the program manager at the time. And he calls Roger on the phone. I wasn't there at the time, I got the second hand from Roger, but he tells him about what happened, and General Bunch really wants to know what's going on, and Roger's asking him, well, what does he want to know? He's like, well, he's standing right over my shoulder if you want to talk to him. And this is inside the cubicle, inside Special Projects, and he's the wing commander at the time. So it was fun times, right? And that was my first program that he handed me when I came into Special Projects. So flying back from TDY when we did our handoff, and the airplane turns around and heads back to Chicago, because fun times. It's the weird stuff that you remember, but it's pretty cool. So I won't go on too long. There's I got 3 things for you here, so it's kind of a past, present, and future theme, if you will. I really struggled with what to get, but it kind of came together at the end. So I'll start with the past. This is for you, and I will let you do that. There's a lot of man wrapping going on here, so you'll think back to Special Projects, and you'll think back to F-117 days in America, and just something you can enjoy out there. You can hang it wherever you want to, but that was kind of how I thought about it. So that's commemorating the past a little bit. And then the present, a little something to enjoy here. This is not meant to age, so I think your liquor cabinet will do fine by the time you're done today. Larry recommended that, so kudos to Larry, and go ahead and enjoy that.
Thank you.
And then finally, for the future, this is for Rancho Vista Golf Course in Palmdale, Lancaster, right by where I am. 2 rounds of golf, with the intent that you're going to take me. You can take Chuck or Ned or whoever you want to, but I mean, it'd be kind of rude. So this is my attempt to try to keep this friendship and relationship going, because I'll be frank, the biggest thing that I worry about is that now that we don't see each other every day at work, that those relationships will end, and it's just human nature. It's just what happens, right? And I don't want that to happen. So I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Roger, are you good?
Doing okay, all right.
Mr. Judkins?
Judd.
Thank you. You have a mustache? Yeah. You didn't know? Where's the pen?
Hello, Roger. Can you all hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jim Judkins. I'm the base civil engineer. And you're probably wondering why I'm holding up this baseball. Well, most of you know, but for those who don't, just listen and you'll know at the end. I've known Roger for several years, but I've only really worked with him for probably, closely for 2 years. And during those 2 years, I feel like I've seen Roger in action. And I watched his calm, cool demeanor. I've watched his personality. I've watched how because I've already told you, but what would you think, or Doug Water, what would Roger be, I am, if he were in Major League Baseball? Yeah. Go ahead, your turn.
Second base.
Okay, and why second base?
I don't know, because that was the answer last time you did this.
Okay. I'll get you. Okay. Okay, I have to pick someone who wasn't at the last twist, so Leo Alvarado. What would Roger be? Come on, guys, work with me here. Come on. So who wasn't at, Chuck, you weren't at the twist. What would Roger be?
First base coach.
Why first base coach?
He's always cheering us on.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Anybody else want to give it a shot before I tell you what I think? Okay. I know, but they cheated, so I can't wear the hat. I think Roger would be the home plate umpire. And you're thinking, why the home plate umpire? Well, first of all, they're calling balls and strikes all day long, and that's tough. They have to be calm, cool, and collected, even when things are going south. Okay, and Roger was always calm, cool, and collected. There were times where I thought, Roger, come on, man, you need to jump up and scream at us. But he also needs to keep the umpire also keeps the game going, keeps all those divas out on the ball field who think they're number one, and some of them are and some of them aren't. Keep them all going in the same direction and keep the game flowing. And Roger, you were superb at doing that. I want to thank you. And so, again, here's the baseball. For those of you who haven't signed it, it'll be up here with some hand sanitizer, I hope, and a pen. Please sign it so that when Roger, are you going to move into your 1906 home in Malibu?
In Monterey, not yet.
I'm sorry, Monterey? Well, anyway, when Roger is at home, he can put it on the shelf, and when friends come by and ask him, you know, what's that baseball doing on the shelf? He can say, well, those are just a few of my friends from Edwards Air Force Base. So, Roger, I'm going to put the ball.
Okay.
Well, we can shake hands in there. I want to say thank you, sir. It's been great. And we'll put the ball over here. And, folks, please do come up and sign it. Please do.
Mr. Osborne? Over there on the table. Over on the table.
You have kids when you're young for a reason. Because the grant, oh yeah, I'm back. All right. Did it.
Quitter. So first, we'll do the 412 test wing official thing. Of course, I think I have to change the speech now after hearing the TDYs to the hard places in Rancho Bernardo and no wonder I could ever find him on the third floor. He's flying gliders, and I kind of figured that out with something to come. I'm not going to spoil it yet, but no, from the 412 test wing though. I mean, 33 years. I mean, so we had Crawford's on Friday, 40 years, right? 33 here, 73 head to nets. I mean, it's like if I started counting, the hair it gets grayer every day because we're losing all that intellectual capital, and it's not replaceable. But thank you so much for lending him to us. I got to work with him in different areas all the time, and I really admired his dedication, his calm demeanor, and his decision processing skills that he had. And he had to make hard decisions, so it wasn't easy. And when you do that, you don't make everybody happy. So that's a hard place to be all the time. But thank you, F-35. You were going to come over, and you were working for Mr. Walden then, right? And then they were like, no, I can't go yet, right? We're like, oh, what are we going to do? We're going to do. We got we had a net. We had a great backfill for there, but it was like, what's next? What's next? So thanks, Mr. Walden, for having him come back to us. It was extremely huge help at the XP shop when you came over there for the last 2 years, and you really, really did a great job with the team, as the team talked about. If you look around the base, I've been here 20 plus years. This is the most construction I've seen, so I know Judd, CE, and the project planning is going on. That's all their work in project planning. So it's not an idle organization. It's not a glamorous one at times. You get the palms you get to deal with. It's hard sometimes to justify. You come back and you don't get them. But all of that, you did great on all of that. So we're really going to miss you, truly going to miss you. So with that, I have a couple things from the wing, and then I have something special that I'm going to invite someone else up with me. This one first, the basket. So we talked to Roger, and here we go. So he didn't want any bent metal. We have this cool little gift, and he's like, no, I don't want bent metal. I'm like, okay. We have some old artifact stuff we put together. So, know that he's retiring and going to have a good time at the golf course. We figured out what his favorite beverage was. That's what he requested, according to Becca. So we got him his favorite beverage there was Malibu rum and pineapple juice, which was a different one. And also we got him some engraved glasses there and coasters from the wing from that. But enjoy that at your time there. And got one other thing, too, that we have from the wing. So Roger hit it right on the cue, as he usually does. If you can hold that, please. He said, take pictures. Take pictures, right? You heard that, right? Roger likes pictures. I learned that about him on one of my TDY. One TDY I went with him after a whole career. Been to different places with him, but not with him personally. We went back in, February, we went to the E-Wizard together. But I noticed he liked pictures, so it was something we thought about. And so I'll just tell you a little story. I didn't know if Roger was retiring yet then, right? So we're carpooling together and thought maybe he was still going to hang in there. So he was telling me, well, we're going to have that discussion still. So I asked him right before we got on the airplane, right? I go, Roger, we never had that conversation, are you going to retire or not? And he's like, well, we'll talk about The Office, which told me he was done. He's checked out. I'm going, okay, this is going to be a fun TDY, right? This guy is probably like, well, I won't bring it up no more. Don't worry. We had a good time. But I did learn he liked pictures. So from that, we thought the wing, and Colonel Reagan wanted to be here today. Colonel Reagan's flying C-17 right now, or he's flying, not C-17, but he's flying. And Laz had to bug out. But here's something we thought would be really good. And everybody, please sign this. I know we just got this in. I'm going to leave it up here for you to sign. But we pulled pictures for you, and this is a retirement yearbook of some pictures of your career that we were able to manifest together from way back in the day to some future ones. So there's some good pictures there. There's areas to go right, so everybody come on up and sign that for them so you can have a nice coffee book, kind of a yearbook theme. There's also a couple pictures of your favorite football team in there. Well, maybe not your favorite team, but our favorite team. The right team is in there, that's for sure. I made sure that got in there, right?
Yes,
Pack,
sir.
go
Yes,
Pack,
sir.
go. Yeah, so that's in there. You'll see that with my smiley face and a nice little autograph. So. But that's from the wing, but hope you enjoy that, and that'll be something that you could treasure. And then, as a typical engineer, I forgot a gift. So that's back in my office, and I can't tell you what it is. So you actually have to come to the office to get that, and you'll like it. It's cool, and we'll still talk about your retirement. So that's the plan. So with that, I'd like to invite Chuck Staley up for something that we decided that we thought is really what you need.
Okay. So first, I'd like to just say one of the things that General Heiger had in his write-up was that he transformed the Special Projects Office. And there is so much packed into that one sentence. I will just say he did a couple things that stood out to me. One, he found the right balance between protecting our nation's most sensitive information and actually being able to get the job done, because that wasn't done well in the past. And the other thing it was, I'll just say, is he transformed that office from an office that had, I'll just say it had the bedside manner of a Wolverine to Mr. Rogers does flight test. And am I wrong? Okay, so I just really have appreciated, he is one of the genuine nice guys in flight test. He's super confident. I worked with him on C-130s and then a lot of time in special projects and running around the country doing all kinds of stuff. I love working with the guy, and I consider him a good friend and a mentor as well. So we ended up getting you, and I don't know, do you want me to go ahead?
No, I'm still on this thing.
All right, so I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna put the test engineering coin over here with next to that 4-star one.
Yeah.
That you got there, but anyway, you spent many years as an engineer. You're still an engineer at heart. I don't know what you'll be doing at NASA with an engineering degree, but anyway, I do appreciate all you do and all you have done for the test wing and for me personally. So thanks, Roger.
For the record, that's bantering. It's friendly bantering, right? Okay. Okay, good. No, so, you know, there's a cool museum that we have out in the front, and the Century Circle out there has a really good program. It's a great thing that we can do to help the cause. So me and Chuck actually purchased you something that will be out there as a legacy, because we believe you are a legacy to the Flight Test Center. For not just the Flight Test Center, but what you've done for the whole country, your previous work as RCO and all that. So we thought it was deserving that we got you this. So you'll get a 1-year prescription, or prescription. You'll need that too as you get older, but subscription. But this will be a brick that's engraved. It says, Roger H. Otis, engineer, 33 years, Black World. There's only 15 characters per line, and it was really hard working with Chuck to come up. We couldn't even spell years between us. So after about 2 weeks of dissertations, that's what we came up with. And it's sad because it's so small, because it doesn't really tell you what you did, but the Black World part, you know, and you'll have that in your memories with your family. But that'll be out there in 30 or 60 days, coming out in the Century Circle. You'll also get a book, which I think is really cool, because you'll enjoy this part. There's the pilot left, right? So our pilot guy left. So it is Flight Testing at Edwards, Flight Test Engineering Stories. So there you go. So it's about the engineers. You'll get that with it. But we just wanted to say, both me and Chuck, thanks for what you've done. We're going to truly miss you. Having you around has been a pure blessing. I wish we worked together more. But, you know, I think one of the best things I want to leave with is I get the very fortunate to meet all the new young workforce come in at employees orientation. And the best thing I get to tell them is you get to develop careers and friendships over your life. And every retirement I've gone to, there isn't one I haven't had a personal relationship with someone. So when I say that, I'm like very emotional about it, and I hope it resonates, or they think I'm just a big baby. But it's true, and you don't get that anywhere else. And I just want to thank you and your family again, and enjoy your retirement, and because you deserve it. Godspeed to you.
Are there any presenters that I may have missed? Don't be shy.
That's the biggest driver I think I've ever seen. I don't even know how to see. Oh, it's not a golf club. Oh, okay.
Change your mind, huh?
Yeah, I think I might. Okay, so I've known Roger for a really long time. And then in part of his Black World, all the things we cannot say of what we do. But I will definitely say there's been a lot of epic moments, a lot of you can't make this shit up moments. And a lot of times where late night calls, and thank you, Jessica, for always answering the phone and waking him up for me as I take a deep breath to say, hey, and then we stumble through some things. So for all those that have been part of your life in the dark world and have been through every random moment that we can't say, and we wait for that book one day that you can write, we want to say thank you. And we got you a little something from us and the debt unit, but everyone was able to sign this. And the part that is missing, well, I guess we'll just have to go to Attach P and have some beers and make up for, make sure you get that. So. He didn't like being on stage, but I made him do it, so.
Just like Justin.
Yeah, story of his life. So we'll definitely, we miss our coffee breaks. We miss, you telling Hasser to slow it down a little bit in the morning, and as the rest of us try to catch our coffee or absorb it. We know Annette's probably heard that story a few times.
I've never had to tell Hasser to slow it down.
He's actually gotten a little bit better. I think he's laid off coffee just a little bit. But the rest of us are still starting to catch up, so we will miss you, and we hope that you come around every now and then.
You bet.
So.
Thank you. This is going to be a Prius story?
Oh, no.
All right, so I've had the privilege of knowing Roger since around 2010, I think it was, when I entered into the black world with him. And that privilege for me was having you as a mentor and a friend, and I'll get to the friend part in a little bit. But one of the things that I've really taken away from this event is the fact that you've really had your fingerprints in so much of our nation's defense and the successes that our nation has had. So I thank you for that. But so on to the friendship part. In the many hours of late nights working with Roger, we get to share some personal things. And one of the things I found was that he really liked automobiles, and that was a shared thing. And I was always curious when he said his favorite car was what I consider to be an inferior brand of automobiles, the Triumph. And I prefer the German cars, and Roger knows that. But anyway, with that, I know you spent a lot of time working and restoring your Triumph TR250, right? Yes. And so in that spirit, I got you a TR250 shirt.
Those are hard to come by.
Yeah.
That takes some hunting on the internet right there. Really hard.
Anyway, and it's in your 49ers color, and also in the color of your car,
Yeah,
right?
still working.
Anyway, thanks for all you've done for me, mentorship and everything. So, good luck. Well, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Colonel Kokenauer? Oh, okay.
That's a shady character in the back. I have not seen that man in a couple of years. Like he hasn't seen a rape. Yeah. COVID's got the better part of him right now.
The last 2 weeks to everyone I met since I was an avid Redskin fan. I didn't know. I thought we'd appreciate it. So I kind of feel like I'm representing all the little guys from way in the back. I used to tease Roger when I do the briefings. I always tell him, I say, well, what's your part? And I say, well, if it's raining, I'm the one who lays in the gutter as Roger steps off the plane or wherever he's coming from on me to keep his shoes dirty. I usually from the brand new people on base, and I tell them from third grade to Congress. So I got to talk to folks. Mr. Otis up on the stage or whoever we're briefing, it's when he sees that photo of who came to see him. Fantastic. And I usually charge for that, Mr. O. All right. Well,
Just trying to get another golf game in, that's all.
just to keep it, I guess, short and sweet, someone mentioned something about man rapping. That's a man rap. You might need some scissors. Well, we'll see. Oh, okay. This is where he goes, Crocodile Dundee, that's not a knife? Okay. So, real quick, the way I got to meet Roger was, if you go way back, he came in and he pulls in the team and he does a round the table, asks you the strategic questions, and everyone's expecting to talk about their program, and you end up talking about yourself. And in his essence, before long, he actually knew a lot about folks. So what I did is, that would have been full of popcorn. I emptied it all out, let the kids get it. So what you can do is fill your team, and you want to say some things to folks, and there's nobody there, and you got this brilliant idea and these things you want to say to them. I got a journal for you. Thank you. All right. Oop, put that in there. Then I got something for you, ma'am, for the family. Just some words just to say that I know folks say it, but we do appreciate the loner, Roger. Nice to show our appreciation. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Colonel Kuchenauer, would you please come to the podium for your presentation?
All right, one last. Two things here. First one, for Jessica. Two sides on this. I'll explain the backside here in a moment. The front is the Air Force symbol, and the Air Force family appreciates, as I said, so much of what you did. So, thank you. Roger, what I have here is the Constitution of the United States. For, folks that are in the Department of Defense, military or civilian, you begin with an oath. The first day in, you start with an oath. I do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or to the nation. And more importantly, the oath that we take is not actually to the country. It's not to a person. It's not to a political entity. It's to the Constitution, which contains the ideals that we believe in. Every generation of Americans has been tested. This one has as well. You lived up to the test. You fulfilled your oath. It is complete. Congratulations, my friend. Thank you. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Roger Otis.
I know it's gone a little long. Thank you. First, I just want to thank the people. I don't think this was working. Hello? It is now. Thank you. Yep. First, I just want to thank the people, Heather, Rick. Thank you so much for coming. Short notice. Thank you, Heather. Beautiful rendition, and thank you, Rick. Behind the scenes, Michelle, XP, Cheryl, even as of this morning as I'm having a meltdown at North Base Gate, Cheryl is running around talking to the wing commander, trying to get my family to come to this event. So thank you, and thank you for the XP team to run around and make this happen. Thank you for the folks that are alive. I have my brother, so Carrie and family, thank you. I know you're up there in Petaluma and relaxing. To my sister in Monterey and her family, the Nevis family, thank you for all that you've done for my 33 years and all the talks and family outings. And thank you for others, many RCO members I know requested, and Mr. Walden and others, so thank you for all of you that are dialing in or watching me live. Kind of awkward, right? I thought a year ago when I thought retirement is around the corner-ish, this was a very different layout. But thanks to amazing work that I could still do this in the middle of this pandemic and still have all of you, my friends, here with me and live is a blessing. Because I will tell you, 90 days ago, I think I was down to going, I'm going to retire myself. I'm just going to put the pins on and look at a letter and and it'd be very quiet and et cetera. Dr. Bjorkman, thank you for your time and your leadership. I've known you on and off. I've seen your names in many documents, even in the classified world, and respected you and super thrilled that you came here to take over the center. We're better for it. Dan-O, haven't known you long closely, but your ability to listen and allow people to do their jobs is kind of unprecedented. Typically, when you get to that kind of leadership role in that kind of environment, it's tough to stop and listen because you're constantly under pressure to make a decision. And no more so than in your job as the lead civilian for us, the 412 Test Wing. Thank you for leading us. I've seen you in many meetings, and then COVID explodes in your front lab. And you're now dealing with everything, not just engineering, not just technical, but people's lives, people get back to work, health of people, high-risk people. How do we do this? How do we get PPE? How do we get sanitizer, et cetera? So thank you. I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly. I think most of you have seen this. I think I'm probably better. This one better? I'm going to have to, should have my reading glasses, but I don't. So this will be a little bit on the sporting side. Thank you. Yeah, oh, perfect. That'll work. Thank you for donating those. I came here, my first day on the job was in an organization called ENAD, EN 65 10th Test Group. Mr. Steve Lees and I have a very epic photograph of him and I in the same organization, newly married, and just full of spit and vinegar. I was a new engineer, wanted to go do things. Little did I know that I entered an organization that loved to party. They'd go out to the survival school a lot. We drove out in the drop zones with trucks. We chased down parachutes. We got to jump in the water out on the Pacific, buy wetsuits. We did some strange things up in Montreal with a tank and a person and lots of probes. We won't go there. But those were days that I cherished because I was new and I was just trying to figure out which way was up. And so, Steve, thanks for being part of that organization. We had many fond memories in there, figuring out which way was up. I got to be put on flight status. That was kind of a cool thing when you got here. You could get on flight status fairly quickly. I was actually hired to be part of the C-17 program, much to the chagrin of some B-2 people that might be in the audience. C-17s were still the most awesome platform, by the way. But for those B-2 lovers, okay, yeah, there was another platform. It's out at South Base. It was really important. Got it. But for the rest of us, we got to fly on various aircraft, and I actually have 4 hours in an HH-1 helicopter, and I have total flight time, control the, what was the thing, the collector and the something. There are two things you're supposed to operate. I mastered that all of about 0.3 of a second. The instructor pilot immediately put the helicopter back on the ground and said, "Get in the back." So that's my total flight time in an HH-1 helicopter. C-130 time, though, a lot of it, a lot of low level. And I remember one vivid flight where we were cruising up through a valley where the mountains were higher than we were, and we literally cleared the top of Mount Whitney by maybe 400 feet. And I thought, there is no other job on the planet that you can be an engineer and fly over the top of Mount Whitney at 350 feet in a C-130. And I'm getting paid for it. Amazing. I didn't do a lot of C-17 work, some crazy stuff. Towards that last part, the last 6 months was pretty crazy. When we bounced the paratroopers off the backside and scraped the side of the parachutes, and it threatened the program. And so me and several others around here in this group buckled down, and I literally slept under my little cubicle. I remember the cleaning lady getting scared. Tricia, I'm trying to be good here. Scared pretty bad. I'll just leave it at that. She screamed because all the lights go out. They were all, the lights went out because I wanted to sleep. And then the lights would pop on at 1 in the morning. I didn't know there was a cleaning person. And this little cleaning lady would come around the corner with a vacuum, and there'd be me in a sleeping bag. And she'd scream. And about the third night, she would just avoid my cubicle. So we became mutual friends at some level. But I got that program through. Then I got blessed by Cliff here to be asked to be part of the F-117 that sent me down a journey of being to the dark side, if you will. Not knowing it then, I just wanted to be a subsystems person, and I wanted to go to Florida for 8 months. Who wouldn't? So Cliff trusts me. I'm an aerial decelerator. I'm a parachute guy. I'm testing parachute harnesses, life vests, parachute releases, and Cliff steps out and goes, I think you could be a good subsystems engineer. Really? Okay, let's try that. So I go down there. Some epic events happened at the climatic lab. Ultimately, the one where we lit the back of the climatic chamber on fire on the last day of test. Of course, it was the last day of test because the chamber's on fire. So we quickly unbuckle and unjack the F-117 and tow it out in the midst of thousands who have now gathered of the billowing smoke coming out of the hangar and everybody wanting to take a look at the F-117. So thank you, Cliff, for that opportunity. That was an amazing time. C-17, I'll go back a little bit. Certainly the halo drop at 25,000 feet. When I was strapped, some of you know Steve Zapka. He was the master photographer then. And he and I sat strapped in, we couldn't even wiggle, on the end of a ramp at 25,000 feet, opened it up, and again, probably the most awesome sight. I just remember there was so much noise and so much, the ramp came down, and yet internally it was quiet. And I remember a loadmaster going, if you look out the back, this is on the intercom, if you look out the back, straight out, that's Vegas. And if you look to your right, that's LA. And then I remember a Marine, a very big Marine, on oxygen, all suited up, full combat gear, was the jump master, and he comes and he casually just walks to the end of the ramp like he's walking down a street, stops at the end of the ramp, looks over the edge. I couldn't look down, by the way. I could see out, but not down. I couldn't do that. He looks down and says, oh yeah, we're like 20 seconds from being over Edwards. I finally peeked down. All I could see was the entire Kern County. I was, okay, if you're over Edwards, great, because it doesn't look like it. You look like you're in the entire Southern California is underneath us. But 24 highly motivated Marines go charging off the ramp, and we successfully did that test point. So again, I'm getting paid for this. I'm getting an opportunity to do a halo drop from 25,000 feet. That puts these jumpers in flight. Can you imagine jumping out of an airline? These people are probably going down 20,000 feet, free falling. And it's only like minus 60 when they jumped out. So kudos to them, but memorable. I'll jump to real quickly on my Naval Postgraduate School days. I know a couple of faces out here. I got selected to go there, privileged. I was going to pick on Leo because he's the one that convinced me to do this thing called LO. Now, you want to talk to a bunch of Navy admirals and leadership at the Naval Postgraduate School and say, I want to be in mechanical engineering, but I want to do LO stuff. They just looked at you funny because the only thing the mechanical engineer did at Naval Postgraduate School is design hulls and submarines. So things that were LO were not in their vocabulary. But Leo convinced me, and I convinced the leadership that I could take some LO classes, electives, not part of my program, in my free time. So Leo convinced me down that path. And then, yeah, that just started a whole chain of events that many of you have already seen. Let me just jump into my DRJ days. I was probably 3 days away. Pete Martini said, come over and take over special projects. You'd be good at it. I got a little sense of what was going on in the office, and I said, no, thank you. I don't want to go. So Donna and several others in the office bribed Dave Rose to take me to lunch over at NASA, and Dave Rose pleaded with me, do not leave us. You've got to come over. And so I did. Probably one of the best damn decisions I ever made in my career. So thank you, Donna and Dave. Just want to hit some highlights. We had the very first DRJ coin, thanks to Mike Sealis and some other designers and inputs. It's still a memorable coin to me. and has been redesigned over and over, but the basic symbol on the front is still the same. It still carries the same legacy. I remember stealing Dave Rose's truck accidentally. If you didn't know it, he had a Toyota truck, and turns out the keys he gives me can fit any Toyota truck in the parking lot. And so I went down. He said that it's the white one. I did. I went to a white pickup truck, fired it up, went and got pizza, and came back and went upstairs, and I said, Grove is the one on the left. I don't know that. Stroop? Was it? Jeez. So anyway, if you have an older model Toyota, I would definitely change the keys. Special Pepsis on Fridays. X-37's running off the runway. The Friday song. Johnny, you remember the Friday song by chance? I know Allie was supposed to be here. I personally invited her so she could tell us. Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah. Yeah, because the music never. All right. I will just highlight at the end of that real quick career. I got a 20-year letter. You know, as you go through civil service, you get a 10-year, a 20-year, and a 30-year. That 20-year letter was signed by Colonel Bunch. I have it framed and in my office. Little did I know that all the mentorship that I gained from him and watched him be a leader, that I would now see him as a 4-star in charge of our command. What an honor. What an honor. All right, so I jump over to the 452nd, thinking I just need a little break. It's been 7 years. And I'm going to jump over to the RQ4s. And I think my second day on the job, where's Vic and Tricia and a couple others that were over there. And I remember walking into the ops room. Thank you, Dave, by the way, for handing me that program, because it was medium risk the day I walked in, and I couldn't get out of that for a while. Anyway, I walk in, I said, so I'm supposed to be the new dope, and what do you know, I went to the ops desk, and I said, what do we got going on? And he said, yeah, we got a flight. It's doing some morning testing. So, okay, got it. And the next morning, I come back in because I'm seeing text messages saying, high wind alert, high wind alert. So I come in the next day, and I go to the ops desk. I said, so when did we get the bird down? I mean, did we sneak it in under the wind limit? No, we just parked it overhead for the next 27 hours. Could you imagine? I mean, I just remember sitting at the ops desk going, wait, this plane's been up, what, 29 hours? I was there for the first and last flight of the Global Observer. Thank you, Prince, for that. Yep. So that was one of my several opportunities to clean up airplane crashes in my career. 1,000 feet, by the way. All right. First flight of the X-47. First flight of the Eurohawk. Great program, by the way. Those Germans know how to party. Woo! First operational relevant Army Gray Eagle. We made the entire North Base an Army FOL. It was a forward operating base, looked and smelled like things downrange. All right, RCO, I'll just briefly go through a couple of these. These are my highlights. For one, what an office. Thank you for the privilege, TAC and Mr. Walden. This is an office that the program offices are only about 20 large. You look at a JPO F-35, it's what, 2,000? Most of the program offices I'm familiar with are a couple hundred. And they can't be thanked enough. They put their personal life literally on hold for the 2 or 3 years that they're there. And I know you did. I know you've traveled from back and forth from Boston almost every weekend, frequent flyer miles, et cetera. But what a commitment to service, so thank you. I remember going to China Lake. I was, you know, as my duties kind of grew, it's like you start going and interfacing with all these airfields. You're good at that, Roger. Okay. So I go up to China Lake. There's an admiral there. I brief him in. First, he just wants to know about the RCO. Just me going up and talking to him, my trust with him and his wanting to help the nation, he completely bulldozed this flyaway gate, and it was gone in 3 days, which allowed us to accomplish the mission later that week or that month. We wandered all over Site 7, one of my favorites. I was in charge of standing up that facility. That was the old F-117 facility that Mike cut his teeth on and had many great missions out of there. We resurrected that site. Many of us in this room did. There were things like Connex containers that we went and purchased and put out. We went out and purchased and found a bypass road to get to the site. And there was my one favorite I wanted to make sure I captured here. Where is it? Oh, and how 24 55-gallon drums. We bought those and shipped them off to unmentioned sites. The opportunity to work with the FBI and the OSI PJ detachment as I bounced around to many bases, many of them in the Pacific, as I wandered through the Pacific looking for airfields. And I had OSI and then locally FBI agents that I got to respect in their mission. Those folks work really hard in a really tough environment. And then at the end of that, I will say that I received my 30-year letter. That letter was signed by Mr. Walden. So here I have a 20-year letter signed by General Bunch. I have a 30-year letter signed by Mr. Walden. And I'm sitting in the middle of the Palmdale Airfield. We have just hosted the Secretary of the Air Force, Miss Wilson. She has gone on a whirlwind tour for about 7 hours throughout the Antelope Valley, driving, I don't know, close to 80 miles an hour up the 14 because she wanted to go see Mojave. And we get out of the car, the Suburbans, all these 5 or 6 blacked out Suburbans pull up. We all jump out. She's on her way. She's going to get on the jet. She turns just before she gets on the jet, comes back, and hands me, in person, my 30-year letter. I lost it. And then I get an opportunity. I knew I had to slow down. I was working a lot of nights and throttled up pretty hard. I knew I was losing traction, had to step out. I wanted to see this man to retirement. I promised him I would get him to retirement, and I fulfilled that goal. And then came back and wanted to do the test wing. But I didn't want to do any test wing job. I wanted a small team again. I couldn't do the engineering gig. That's a large organization. I wanted something small last year, and we have just gone over about 900 fifth graders that we now teach. That's the 412th test wing doing that. That's an amazing achievement. With things, fins, plans, e-whizzers, palms, all now pretty much best in class within the center. All right, so that's my career part. I'm gonna spend just a few minutes on maybe the balance part, right? It's the flip side, and I will talk a little bit about it. The first one I will mention is in 2009, my wife had H1N1. That was prior to COVID. The outpouring of people that came and provided meals and prayers and support was shocking to me. My 3 children were shocked, wanting to know where Mom was as she sat in an intensive care unit. And yet, all I had was support from people I didn't even know. Many of you for us every night. And Mike, you stood and took on the office of DRJ, which was not an office that stopped. And so I remember thinking, I'm losing my entire ability to do work. But I appreciate Mike, and thank you for stepping up, because that was huge. So thank you for that. Getting to a lighter note, and I just got a couple of bullets here. Carpools. Who doesn't love carpooling? I've been with many. TJ Rombouts, hopefully she's on live. Don Lang, Chuck and Annette Wiseseal, Brian over here, and Rick. Now, each one has a little different personality and has different topics. I could generally roll with most of them. I could keep up with the golf, and I could keep up with the cars. I could keep up with family. But if you've ever ridden with TJ Rombouts, you are at a different level. So TJ, if you are out there, I don't know how many more Cosmopolitan articles I can try to understand, or how many things I can improve in my sex life that were shared with me in a carpool with TJ, but I do appreciate you, TJ, and just a big shout out, because that was many years of early in our career. And so thank you for that, TJ. I hope you still have a subscription to the magazine, because there was many laughing moments along the way. All right, it enabled family fly fishing trips that I've done every year with many of you hearing my stories, so I appreciate that. This number of stadiums that Cliff and I, we promised, he swore that we would do all the stadiums. We're close to that, but some amazing trips and memories there as well. And then I will end with what took on a life of its own in my personal life, and many of you, is soccer. I started the Soccer in Tehachapi program. I entered it in 1990. And many of the faces that I see here, I met through that sport, that opportunity for the young kids to play. And so everything from moving fields to where you see them now on the Highway 58. So if you travel to Highway 58 and look to your left, there is a soccer field. Moving burned out snack shacks and dragging single wide trailers that didn't have any tires on them with various methods of trucks and Jeeps chained to it. We spent days and nights and weeks prepping the fields, killing gophers, and then ultimately an opening day event for 500 kiddos that included carnivals, jump houses, snow machines, and many of those were preceded by a night of a lot of fun with campers and people hanging out there. So many of your kids I've seen grown up and go through that, and I just I look back on that as being one of the more bonding and friendship-creating environments I've ever been a part of. So if I take my work environment and I slip it over to the work in Tehachapi and personal environment, those are my takeaways. And so at end, I thank you for being my friend and my colleague. May all the memories that you have stick with you and carry you through. And if you need anything from me that I've made statements before, please reach out, because I will be there. So thank you for your time, and thank you for coming.